Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the last episode of our dungeon diving adventure with me, Cornish-Knight, and the Fuax. Now, this is going to be about half an hour long, so yeah, buckle in for a long ride. Where we left off, we just finished off, or the Fuax just finished off killing the minotaur. He had chucked me Odin's spear, and I was in the process of following him into the final section of the game, which is the fortress, I believe. Now, the fortress is an extremely difficult level for those of you who have never reached it. It's predominantly magical traps and extremely high level monsters, so expect gnomes, trolls and demons. So, all the fun at the fair. It's actually a relatively fun level to play in. I haven't got to explore it that much. And I'm just chucking out. At this point, if you guys haven't realised, the Fuax is now invisible, so that's always fun. Please remember that we actually have friendly fire on at this point, so invisible teammates tend to become a bit hazardous to their health. So just having a drink of my water. We're basically just sort of getting ready to go on to the next section, which is, I won't say it's the hardest part of the game. I find the Baron's castle, like the castle level, to be relatively straightforward, at least when you know what you're doing. I was just asking about gems, so I know that some gems do give you some benefits on a rare occasion, but I find them to be such a sort of risk-reward thing with gems, because they take up inventory spots, they weigh relatively a modest amount, so they can slow you down, and unless you get the right kind of shop you can't sell them, so they're not particularly fantastic to have. Sorry, I'm just waking my head up for today's session. Now you can see the Fuax, the invisible Fuax throwing stuff. Just quickly flipped on magical mapping and just trying to figure out what to do next. I'm of the opinion that we should probably just go straight for the exit at this point. As you can see me typing out into chat, I still argue that they need to have an inbuilt chat channel in this game. Oh, the fun of the fair. Now, the dungeon level, well, the castle level is famous for having two things. One is having these basically booby traps full of... Yeah, I'm getting chased by a demon at this point, and I'm literally sprinting for it on low health and being poisoned, which is never fun. And I have no food, which is also just fantastic. Fortunately, the Fuax is there to save me. For that I am eternally grateful. He's actually a really good co-op player. I know that he's become a bit burnt out by the game recently, so he's taking a break from it. But I found that I really appreciate having him on these runs, because he is a really good co-op player. Some people you playing games with tend to be not fantastic. They tend to sort of either rush off and leave you behind, or not offer you support, which is always really frustrating. But the Fuax is a really good co-op player in this game, so I was rather pleased to have him on my side. And we found a hat shop. Get to put on what I would call my Lich King helmet. A very cool helmet indeed. Now, this is the bit that's going to get a bit interesting, because at this point in the game my mana isn't fantastic. As I said, I've always found it a bit frustrating playing mages at high level, because your mana just does not replenish. I wish it did, but it doesn't. So, technically it does replenish, but it replenishes something like 1 or 2 points every 3 seconds or something, really slowly, so it's not a great idea to be using powerful spells. There you can see an invisible trail of sick, which means that the Fuax is thrown up somewhere. Pick up a mace. There are some nice weapons in this game. I wish the weapon variety had a bit more diverse ability to them, I suppose. But you never can tell. Pardon me, what weapons you do tend to get in this game can vary quite a lot depending. I mean, I've had spears, I've had halberds, had axes, had maces, but you get a relatively good range of weapons. I had crossbows. Crossbows are nice, proper crossbows. I don't know, I'm just trying to think what else they could put into the game. More gems. By this point I'm getting rather sick of seeing gems. Now it's just trying to figure out what to really do on this level. I mean, you don't get that many enemies on the castle levels, and if they do, they tend to be relatively high spec. So farming for XP is always sort of like a very risky maneuver. More gems. We had so many. Yeah, I know I spelled gems wrong. I spelled them gems. Spelling was never one of my fortes, unfortunately. Also, when you're trying to play a game and type you sort of end up spelling things incorrectly because you're more worried about stuff coming around the corner and kicking you in the head. Especially in a game like this where it doesn't pause when you type. Ring of teleportation. You can see the Fuax has got fed up with walls and is just going through them. Can't blame him. It's interesting, this game has some really quite charming mechanics in it. I really do like a lot of the mechanics. There are some things that, like I've said previously, that I wish they would have improved upon, like increasing difficulty for if you had more players, or just like a difficulty slider per se, and maybe some like more enemy types. But the game is really good. I strongly recommend it to anyone playing who's looking for a D&D kind of game with dungeon crawling elements. I mean, if we were going to break it down into positives and negatives, there are some negative aspects I wish they would have either fixed or improved upon. The most obvious one being the lack of sort of like enemy variety. I mean, it would have been nice there to have been more enemy types in this game. I mean, I wouldn't mind paying a small amount of money for basically a DLC pack, which was basically adding more enemy types in. Because though I do really like this game, after a while it can get a bit repetitive due to the fact that you have a limited range of enemies. So it's like, oh, I get down to such and such a level and it's going to be just trolls and demons, and I'm on this level and it's going to be just skeletons and rats. And the problem is they don't turn up in other places, which is kind of disappointing. It would have been really nice to have had the enemies turn up throughout the entire game rather than this being area specific. But I can understand what the developers wanted to do. They didn't want to basically have to add loads of different levels of enemies in. But it would have been nice. I mean, having a sliding difficulty would have been nice as well, because the difficulties of the characters shown at the bottom of the character screen when you choose them don't really reflect the actual game difficulties. Like, for example, the knight is considered to be a beginning class, and I wouldn't really count the knight as beginning class, because obviously, yes, you can take a lot of beatings and that's fantastic, and you can deal out a lot of melee damage, but you can't identify anything. So, that's the Zap squad, I believe. You can't identify anything, and the problem with that is if you can't identify anything, you're at a pretty major risk of dying horribly. Pardon me, sorry, having a yawn. So, I don't know, I mean, it's like Defurax explained to me, which is that the actual difficulty of the game isn't reflected in the difficulty of the character class. Because the game itself, as I said, the difficulty of the game never changes, so it's just how you use the characters that is how you find the game challenging. And with that in mind, it's like playing as the Wizard. The Wizard is considered to be like, I think, a medium or difficult character class, and I wouldn't think of him like that because, yes, I mean the Wizard is relatively soft, but if you've got like 2 people in the party, it's not a massive issue. If it was on his own, yes. But I don't know. I mean, I have been thinking about this quite a lot while playing this game with the Fuax, and it's sort of like, I don't know. I do really believe that the game needs to have like a difficulty slider put in so it can make the game more challenging, or just like or at least a harder difficulty mode. Like you have like normal difficulty mode, and then you have challenging difficulty mode, and then you have like Dungeon and Dragon difficulty mode or something. I don't know. It just, once you know how the game works and how the game mechanics work, a lot of the difficulty very quickly vanishes. You can still get screwed over by the RNG, I'm not saying you can't. You can get... Yep. Yes, you saw that writing before we faded out slightly. We're on a level of a minotaur, which is not fantastic. The reason I sort of cut away there was just literally because we were doing some item management and it's a bit boring to watch. And of course, gnomes. Everyone's favourite little money hoarders. I really hate the gnomes in this game. I really, really hate the gnomes. Probably it's to do with the fact that the first time I played this co-op with the Fuax, we got jumped by basically by a whole bunch of them, like by 5 of them. Or 5 or 6 of them, and it was literally a really tense fight in the corridors. They were there trying to hit us in the face with pickaxes and mattocks, which were not particularly pleasant. I think it's probably coloured my view against them for the rest of the time. You can see sort of like the Zap squad is engaging them, and we have, I mean, on this level, you basically what you get is either gnomes or trolls or demons. I mean, demons can be a pain. I'm not saying they can't be. They're very powerful, late to end game enemies types. But to be honest, they never come in very. Sorry, I'm yawning. They can never come in particularly large numbers. So it's not like with the gnomes where you can get jumped by 6 of them. I mean, trolls are annoying because obviously they're trolls, and unless you walk into their area, they're not going to aggro on you. But it's, I don't know, it's one of these hard things. I wish they, as I said, I wish they had, even if they didn't change the number of enemies, literally sort of, if they could have improved upon, like you have like your common troll, and then you have your, I don't know, mountain troll or something. I don't know, it'd be really nice if we had like levels of enemy, like you had your common skeleton, and then you had your armoured skeleton, and then you had like, say, a Death Knight, or it's not a Death Knight, or a Black Knight if you're using D&D terms, or I don't know, like a Revenant or something. Just, I know you can get sort of the special boss that turns up, which is the skeleton with the red cloak, on the few beginning levels, but it would be really nice if we had like, you had like tiers of enemies, like you had like lesser demons, and then like medium demons, or like elite demons, or like barons or something like that, or like you had like young gnomes and like middle-aged gnomes, and you had like elder gnomes and stuff like that. It'd be nice that you could have the chance of having a range of different enemies of the same type. I don't know. It's, the thing is, I don't have a problem with the game. I really love the game. I think Barony is a fantastic game, especially as you can see my magic resistance and my armour is deflecting stuff. Didn't save that guy though. As I said, the NPCs in this game tend to die very quickly, so always entertaining to watch them explode. But I don't know, it's one of these things, I love Barony, I think it's a fantastic game, but I do think for replayability that there are things lacking that the developers need to actually attend to, I suppose you could say it like that. The lack of, I suppose, I wouldn't say replayability, yeah. At this point, basically all the NPCs decide to suddenly start murdering each other. I don't know what happens if I think one of them hits one of each other and it all just turns into a slugfest. Either that or well, I think what originally happens is that the Fuax, or I think one of the NPCs actually hits another NPC and he goes violent, and then the Fuax decides to kill everybody else so he can have equipment. Because that's pretty much the tactic for what you do when you get to this level. Your NPC companions will not survive fighting the Baron at all. He's extremely overpowered for a game boss, so it's more advisable literally just to avoid him, to be honest. I mean, just to kill off your NPCs, because what as I've mentioned before, the NPCs in this game pick up the best equipment they can, so they tend to hoard a lot of good gear. So it's better just to kill them off before the boss fight and then just to loot the corpses. I know that sounds tough, and I know that sounds unpleasant and like unheroic, but at the end of the day, these guys are not going to survive fighting the Baron, and you will not have time to pick up gear while fighting him. So we've sort of got everything ready, maximised everything, and this is basically going to be taking on the Baron. I haven't had much chance or experience fighting the Baron, to be honest. We tend to either die before getting to him, or we suffer from technical issues, but at this point we're basically trying to figure out who's actually going to face him. Because at the moment I really don't want to be the one to go and poke that particular can of worms. And as you can sort of figure out, neither does the Fuax. The problem is both of us are playing relatively squidgy characters. He's playing a rogue and I'm playing a wizard, so we really don't want to be the ones to basically poke the bear. Unfortunately, he sort of forces me into it, and I sort of leg it down the corridor. He's such a hard enemy to fight in this game, the Baron. To be honest, he's one of the hardest enemies I've ever actually encountered in a game. Just because he is massively overpowered, that and the fact that he floats, so actually hitting him with ranged magic is actually surprisingly hard, because you have to lead all your shots and you don't actually know where he's going to go. That combined with the fact that he can basically one-shot you with magic. I found this out the first time I ever faced him, which is literally I ate one of his attacks to the face and just exploded. Because that looks like a single attack, it's not. It's sort of like 6 spells in one. He super overpowers his attackers. It's really unfair, and plus he can do that, which is sort of like, we also suffered from a slight amount of lag as well during this boss fight, which wasn't fantastic. But besides that, he's insanely tough. Insanely tough. I mean, I know you can take him in melee. There is a particular way of beating the Baron in melee, but you need to have the right character and the right setup for it. He's obviously by this point summoned demon minions to help him. The Fuax basically dies horribly, and now it's basically me versus a Baron. And I'm desperately trying to avoid the demons, because the demons in this game are pretty dangerous, and I'm wanting him to either try and aggro his own demons. I try and grab a bow to basically use against him, because I really don't want to try and fight him in melee. Unfortunately, my archery is terrible, which means that it takes me forever to draw back the bow. As you can tell, it's not going particularly well. I decided at this point that it's going to basically have to be a Hail Mary pass and just stab him to death. But as you can tell, it doesn't particularly work out fantastically well. I managed to reflect quite a lot of it, but as you can tell in a second, I sort of end up eating a lot of it to the face in a bit. Plus he starts summoning more enemies, which is fantastic. I was just trying to kill him before I died, to be honest. I was hoping, yep, didn't work out, got exploded. Interestingly, he aggroes one of his own minions, and we're trying to see if he could kill him off, but it doesn't work. Well, that's the end of our adventure, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have enjoyed. If you've liked, please press the like button. If you wish to subscribe, please press the subscription button. You can follow me on Facebook and Twitter at the links provided below. Now, I believe the Forax and myself are going to take a little bit of a break from this game. I'm probably going to put some more stuff up on Barony not in the near future, but not in the so far distant future. So watch out for that. I'm going to be going back to some of the other games I've been playing. I hope you've all enjoyed, and I shall catch you all next time. Cornish-Knight, out.